So I'm working on something that I've been wanting to get to for some time now. Because I'm realising now it's actually a really nice idea to just sit down every day and do something nice and relaxing and just take my mind off everything. So I couldn't realise that yesterday when I was doing that record player. And so what we've got here is technically not a toy, but for all intents and purposes a toy Japanese tape recorder from the 1960s. These things were apparently quite common back then. They came in all different sorts of, packages. There's brain fart. These came with all different kinds of appearances. This particular one, I don't even know what brand name this one was sold under, because the badge has fallen off. These were sold under probably hundreds of different brand names. They're all the same. You think of it a bit like the way that, your Chinese stuff these days is, you might find the one, cheap nasty Chinese thing being sold under a billion different brand names by, a billion different companies, and ultimately it comes from the one source. It's a bit like, I think it's a bit like that with these tape recorders. They're just so common. These are a bit of a novelty item back in the 60s, especially that with tape recorders being like sort of hot technology and everything, and there was a bit of a fad for audio letters, tapes and stuff, so these things kind of took off a fair bit. But ultimately what happened is people would buy them, they were cheap, they'd play with it and never use any tape but the one that came with it, and then get put in a cupboard and forgotten about. These are not, there are probably millions of these things made. They're not particularly rare or unique or hard to find or anything like that, but they are kind of neat. And even though it's kind of not really a toy, it wasn't sold as a toy, but even still, they're just nice to play around with and get going and everything. They're not worth a lot of money either. The most I've seen one sell for is about maybe $30 to $50, and that was brand new in the box still on eBay, so they're not particularly sought after either, so it seems anyway. Now there are actually little portable battery operated tape recorders not like this. If you look at them you think they're the same thing, from the 60s as well, that were made in Japan, but those that are actual real tape recorders, those are a whole different beast to these things, that the mechanism that they use and everything, and those are actual proper tape recorders or proper products, and in general they'll be brand names like that you still recognise these days, like National, Panasonic and Sharp, Sony, brands like that. In fact, I've got a little National Panasonic one. I might go grab that now. I was going to do a little comparison of the two, what the differences are between the toy ones and the real ones, so I'll be back in a second once I grab that. Now here's a real, one of the proper ones. These ones were actual, I don't know how expensive they were, I wasn't around in the 60s, and information about stuff like this, kind of hard to find. You can't find anything online anymore, not like you used to be able to, because now Google only shows you junk websites, what it thinks it wants you to, what they think you want to see, and nothing but retail sites, spam and eBay, spam and just crap. So you go and do a Google search for something like a national Panasonic reel-to-reel recorder, and you'll get about 2,000 pages of eBay. Anyway, I'm very annoyed at the way that, you know, the web's gone and everything. Is disgusting. So anyway, is this showing on the camera? Yep. Okay. Great. So these, you'll notice they look. I haven't actually even taken the lid off the other one yet. But you can see this. We've got. This is just a mono 1-track recorder. It's got these little small sized reels. I think they're 6.5 centimeters, 8.5 centimeters. So I think was a common reel size in Japan for portable tapes. I don't think it was very common in the rest of the world, and other countries sort of had their standards of all tapes and stuff like that. The speed on this thing is standard. You can see on this one we've got the tape goes through into where a mechanism here where the playhead's under here with the felt pads that push up. Also there's, whether it's showing up or not, just in here there's a pinch roller, and there's a capstan here which when you press play snaps onto the tape. That regulates the speed of the tape as it moves past the playhead, so you get a constant speed. This is actually 2-speed unit. What's interesting is to change the speed on this. There's no button or switch or anything, or you know, any electrical regulation or you know, mechanism differences or anything. You got your capstan actually unscrews on this thing. Probably shouldn't do that with the tape in. And I don't have it because it had been lost well before I ever came into possession of this. Normally you've got a spare capstan up here that's of a larger size, and you swap the capstan, and you know, the larger size capstan is going to give you a faster speed. So that's kind of an interesting little feature of this. Whether that's something they might have designed in, or they might have just gone, hey, we can add this as a little extra feature, you know, down the track. I don't know. That's kind of neat. Anyway, so one of these is, yeah, got proper mechanism to regulate the speed and everything. There's circuitry wise, there's bugger all in this. So yeah, this has got quite inside is. I'll do a video on this at a later stage. The inside thing has got a big flywheel and it's got a big metal chassis. It's all well designed inside, very well engineered. Of course, that's why, you know, National, Panasonic, National, Matsushita, that's why they're still around, obviously. Because Japanese made stuff back then was pretty much known for being, you know, cheap junk like this. So cheap transistor radios as well they flood the market with. But you know, I think the stuff, brand names like these that are still around, are the ones that sort of got the reputation that Japanese stuff nowadays has of being, you know, well engineered. I guess these particular brands are a bit of a standout thing, I don't know. Anyway, videos are about this, so we'll have a look at this one here. Make some room here. Okay. These ones are, well, when I said there was bugger all to the circuitry in this one, I mean, compared to this one's really got bugger all in it, both circuitry wise and in terms of the mechanism one. There we go. So inside of this one we've got, the lid comes off, it's on a nice little movable hinge. It doesn't actually have a really cheap, nasty feel to it. It doesn't feel like, you know, horrible and cheap at all, but essentially it is. So in this it doesn't look, you know, if you look at it just straight up, you wouldn't think there's anything, you know, different about this compared to another one, but if you look at it, I'm not sure how well that shows up. Down here, this is where the tape code goes in through, and the playhead's underneath. Yeah, my pointy black stick. Yeah, so I use my sausage fingers. So under here you've got playhead, and see I've got this little spring clip retention type dealio that has the felt pads that hold the tape up against it. There's no capstan or anything in here, there's no pinch roller. The tape literally just runs across the playhead and it's held against it by this thing. And inside there's basically no mechanism at all inside. What you've got in here is you've got a little motor just here, and it's on a little axis where it can tilt like left, right, and when you press these play and rewind and what have you, it tilts either way depending on, I don't know, brain fart there. And you can see so both ends of the motor have a shaft on it and a little rubber roller, and as it tilts, that rubber roller pushes up on the bottom of the reel, and the motor turns that, and your tape goes through. And there's no speed regulation or anything, and that's what makes these kind of particularly useless, is even though, you know, you can record stuff on them, the quality's just pretty poor. Certainly isn't high fidelity. That was probably must have been sort of high popularity at the time, sort of buzzword type thing. I haven't heard that term with new stuff in a while, aside from audio full products, but yeah, it's a bit random. Anyway, what makes them useless is because there's no speed regulation or anything like that. As the tape gets further and further, progresses, and as the take-up reel fills up, as it gets heavier, the speed slows down. So even though I think they are actually designed to run at the standard however many inches per second, I don't know, I'm not really into tape stuff, so I don't know, couldn't say off the top of my head what that is. They're sort of designed to run at that. It's like a nominal sort of standard speed, but they don't stay at that speed, so you can't take a tape off of one of these units and say go play it on one of these, because what's going to happen? So obviously if you try and play this on one of these other types of ones that just does sort of have proper capstan mechanism with regulated speed and all of that, then you know it's gonna play that tape slowed down as it progresses. In theory, you should be able to take the tape off a unit the same and play it on that, but there's all sorts of things in this as well that could sort of affect the speed in terms, like say the battery's a little drained or whatever, because it's pretty much just puts the motor straight onto the battery. There's, you know, no sort of circuitry that will make it cut out at a certain, you know, voltage or whatever when the battery drains, so that could affect the speed as well. If you know you're recording it and your battery's half dead and, you know, stuff like that. So these are good enough for just a shitty little voice recording. They're not good enough, they don't have the quality to record music or anything, and it's actually got this little pouch here. It's actually got a little microphone there. Just kind of neat that it still has, that it's actually still stayed with it and hasn't gotten lost. It's a very old-fashioned type of 3.5mm plug. It's very ball-shaped at the end. Obviously it's only a mono. I'm not sure what type of microphone this is, if it's like a little condenser microphone type thing, or if it's or if it's like one of those carbon granule things, or if it's a crystal microphone. So I'll take that apart and have a look, so just out of curiosity. I don't know if the microphone still works. If it's a crystal microphone, it may not, but I don't think it's a crystal microphone. So yeah, put that lid back on and just bottom so this I picked up off just a radio buy swap cell group that I'm in. It was the guy who sold it apparently said the motor works, so I think he said the motor works but it has no sound, I don't know, but it could actually work, just be pretty didn't have all the batteries in it, because this actually uses both a 9-volt battery and I think 2 D cells, which is interesting. I'll get to that once I take it apart and look inside. So I've got 2, I actually think they're C cells, and a 9-volt. The 9 volts for the amplifier in this thing, and 2 C or D cells, whichever they are. Pretty sure they're C cells. Those are for the motor. So, you know, you need all 3 batteries in there. So for me to power this up and test it, I'm going to have to use 2 separate power supplies for this. So fortunately I do have 2 separate power supplies. It's interesting that foam in the battery hasn't broken down. That's probably the first time in history. I'll pop this back on and... well, actually no, I wanted to test it, didn't I? Alright, right, I'll get these power supplies set up and... Alright, so I've got 3 power supplies. Originally I just had these 2, and then I came across this. This is actually a dual supply. Bit cheap and nasty actually. This was on special. I think it was at Rockby. It was like $160 or something, and I thought, well, that's a very reasonable price for a dual linear power supply. That can do, I think, up to about 10 amps. But and this would be very suitable for what I need to do. But I don't like this at all, because it's got all this digital crap in it, and it's noisy. It's got a fan, and the fan always runs in it, always, even if it's only putting out like 0.2 of an amp or something. The fan runs, which is just stupid. I mean, yeah, so I've got these old-fashioned power supplies. The only problem with these is this one only goes up to 1 amp, this one only goes up to 1/4 of an amp. But I like these older ones with just the analog thing, and just a couple of knobs. Because there's no screwing around and, you know, then having to press buttons and do all this annoying stuff. I hate the annoyingness of modern equipment like this, so I really prefer to just use these old ones. So because they're linear supplies, that means I can put them in series if I want to, and also I can use them in instances like this, for powering something like this, where I've got, you know, essentially what's a bit of a dual rail sort of supply with earth in the middle. But yeah, anyway, so this is Delta Electronica, which is a brand I've never heard of. I love these, that they've also, these are both of these are all discrete transistors. There's no ICs in these things at all. This one's just basic, you know, regular old linear regulator. This one's actually kind of neat. I think this was only $20. I saw it, I thought that's interesting. It's a little homemade, I don't know if it's a kit build, I think it is. I have no idea what kit it would have been made from. It's a little precision power supply. And it goes up to 25 volts, and I can switch between either, you know, a fixed 250 milliamps or adjustable voltage. This has got this humongous precision potentiometer in it. So the chassis of the thing is very small, and this is your old-fashioned sort of chassis that's, you know, valve style, where you've got your upside down tray with your stuff on top and your components on the underside, but this is actually all solid state. Be careful not to touch those, because you're exposed collectors. I just gave myself a little bit of a tingle, but it's not earth leakage or anything, like, you know, mains or anything like that. I've already tested this, it's all good and safe and everything, but you wouldn't see this these days with the exposed collectors. They'd have to have all the modern, you know, insulators and stuff over them. But you notice it's got 3 of them on the back for a little 1/4 amp supply. That's probably, you think, it's a little bit over the top, but this thing is just crammed full of transistors, and it's got all like 20-turn trimmers in it and all sorts of stuff. And the potentiometer it's got a Bakelite knob, and the potentiometer itself is Bakelite, and it's huge. It takes up about half of this whole box. It's just this potentiometer, and you can see it's precision. Look at how sort of fine you can adjust that voltage. So it's kind of neat. It's not good for much other than sort of, you know, transistor radios and stuff like this, but it's a neat little supply, and it probably needs a little bit of work on it as well. It's got all the original capacitors and stuff in it, but you know, given that I can measure the voltage of this on the good old HP meter that I've got, which is pretty bang on still, and this thing's spot on with its voltage and everything, so I haven't been concerned about any of the old caps or anything in it. Yeah, so I think it might be from an American kit, because it's got all American stuff from memory. I think it's got like sort of RCA and Motorola transistors, and it's got big Sprague brand capacitors and, you know, all that stuff. If it was based on an Australian kit from, geez, I don't know, say Electronics Australia or whatever, it's not what I expect to see. I'd expect to see, you know, Australian stuff, maybe Ducon and Philips and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to find out what this is built from. I'm sure it's built from a kit. The PCB in it's clearly homemade though and everything, but you can tell it's got the proper, you know, lettering on the switches and stuff, but you can tell that it's homemade. Anyway, I'm getting way sidetracked, so I'm going to use this one and this one together to get the 2 separate supplies that I need. So I'm just going to hook up the supply set to 3 volts. So the shit probes out of the way. Sounds like it. Leads tangled everywhere. I'm just gonna, right now I'm just gonna do this test out, just the motor, just 3 volt, because it just sort of occurred to me, maybe I shouldn't put any voltage through the 9 volt section, which is for the amplifier, just in case there's you know, dried out capacitor that's shorted, which I pretty much guarantee this is going to have a whole shitload of those in it, because it's old Japanese stuff. Always has those old grey Elna brand ones which are just garbage, and those are almost very rarely see ones that aren't shorted out. So I've got 3 volts in now. See what happens if I press play. That's a little fast. That's how the speed slows down as more tape winds up onto that. Oh, that's interesting. Actually, have a look at these switches on the front. We've got record and play on the one button. So these play and rewind will tilt the motor left or right, and then stop will just reset it back to flat. And also that will trigger the switches in there obviously to turn power on. Interesting is record and play are on the one thing. We've got this little switch here that's got play and record. Now that's a little bothersome, isn't it? If you accidentally oh shit, I didn't realise that it was set to record and just press play. Well, there's no safety sort of mechanism there, which kind of gives you another hint there that this is not a proper tape recorder. Make sure I actually will make sure that I don't hit record, because I really want to see what's on this tape. It's always interesting seeing what's on them. That doesn't seem right. That's just too fast. Maybe? Those batteries aren't in series and they're in parallel. If that's the case, then that'd be 1.5 volts and not 3 volts. You know what, I'm gonna take this apart. I'm gonna cut the power off now and take this apart. I do not want to burn that motor out. I'm going to turn the camera off because I don't want to make a video of me removing screws. Of course I could have just, you know, used the multimeter and checked for continuity between the two positives, but it's the time of night that it is. I think I should be excused for that. And there you go. Grey capacitors in there, they're probably Elna ones. I noticed a lot of these old grey capacitors, the Elna ones seem to be made under a lot of different brand names. And I know at least a couple of different ones of these grey ones actually are Elna ones, that I've actually been able to verify that. They might not all be, but yeah. There's some very interesting resistors in it. I'll look at that one. Is that, how well zoomed is that? Let's see if I can. These resistors are interesting in this thing. Have a look at this one. It's like it's radial, and obviously you know, this is one end of the resistor and that's the other, and you know, the lead would normally come out of here, but hopefully it's come out of that one end. It's interesting, but I would say that this end, if this end is where that other lead ultimately connects to, that's kind of interesting. There's another one there. That actually could be just one of those old-fashioned, one of those old dog bone type resistors. Could be a tubular capacitor, but I doubt it. I don't reckon that would be, but that's interesting. I'm going to take this tape off now because it's starting to unravel. It's annoying. Quite annoyingly with this, and it was actually like this when I've got it, because I haven't actually run the thing yet, is that this looks like it's got too much. The amount of tape that's on this reel is just too much for the size of the thing. It's like they've put the wrong sort of, the reel size is slightly smaller on this one than the other one here. This one's got made in Japan, so this one's probably the original take-up reel. But this tape is got made in USA, so this is not the yeah, something weird going on here. But there's too much tape on here. And it just doesn't stay on the reel, see? It could, maybe there isn't too much tape and maybe it just didn't wind on at the right speed so it didn't have the right tension and everything, I don't know, but I'm feeling this is not the original reel that came with it. This is such a pain in the ass. Got leads all over the place, but I've got 9 volts into that now. I've got the house part there supplying the 9 volts, the other little one over here supplying that 1.5. In theory, I could have just used the one supply and then, I don't know, maybe gotten the second voltage for that by using and just dropping it through a resistor or something simple like that, but got the 2 supplies, so right. Try and get this tape back on. So I'll press play before I put it on so it happens if I get any noise. And with the volume control, I'm not getting any sort of crackliness there. With how dirty this thing is, I'd expect that pot to be filthy, and if the amplifier were working, I'd expect that would be making crackling noises as I'm turning it up and down, so I think maybe the amplifier has got some problems. So as I was struggling and trying to thread that tape back on before, the camera just randomly the card filled up, and it doesn't sort of do anything like obvious or visible to tell me that it stopped recording, and it's annoying. So while I was copying stuff off the card and charging the camera, got the tape off of that and put it onto the other machine and got it wound back onto here properly. So as you can probably not see, the tape is wound on sort of tightly, and you know, if you look at the surface across here is flat, and whereas before it was, the tape was all over the place, up and down and stuff, because this doesn't have that speed regulation. So I just put it in here and just put this on play and walked away from it for a half hour or so, come back, and you know, I've got my tape wound onto here properly, and it turns out the tape is permanently fixed into this. So this is obviously the original tape that came with the thing. This is the one that's got Japan on it, and this other reel, which is too small, it's a couple of millimeters too small, which is just enough to be a big deal. This is obviously from another tape. They've obviously lost the take-up reel and used this, but anyway. So I've confirmed that the amplifier actually does not work, as you probably saw before. Just disconnect this thing. There, the way. So, I need to determine why does not the amplifier work in this. Most obvious answer to that, I'm thinking, is probably shorted out electrolytic capacitor. So it was drawing current, it was pulling, I think it was going about maybe a third of an amp, so maybe 300 milliamps or so. As soon as you press play, no matter whether or not you adjust the volume control, it was just drawing the same amount of current. So I would suggest a short, but then on the other hand, I turned the current adjustment on the supply right up as high as it went, and it wouldn't go above that sort of maybe 300, 350 or so. So I don't know if there's like, obviously there's not a dead short across the supply there, but it does seem like something probably is shorted in there. Another thing that I think could be an issue is maybe I would check the speaker isn't blown. Also check the output transformer and make sure that that hasn't gone open. So I'll have to do that. So I'm going to cut this short now. So tomorrow I'll just upload this, and I'll upload this before I go to bed, and tomorrow I'll kind of pull this board out and I'll go over what's on there and the circuitry and everything. See, it's really simple. There's really nothing in there, nothing to it. And we'll figure out why the amplifier doesn't work. It'll be easy to fix. And yeah, and then we'll see what's on that tape. Kind of spoiled it for myself by putting it on the other player, but yeah, anyway. Yeah, so thanks for watching all that shit. See ya.